Hey guys, welcome back to CLOWNFISH TV. This is Kneon. We're going to talk about the comic book industry reacting to DC Comics severing ties with Diamond Comic Distribution, Diamond Comic Distributors. This has thrown the comic book industry for a massive loop, and retailers are not very happy. We've been talking about this off and on for the last couple days, and how this is absolutely going to change the direct market landscape, but retailers aren't happy about it either, because now they got to go to more than just one distributor, right? Now, before we get into it, I want to follow up about Newsarama. Newsarama was absorbed into Games Radar like a week ago, and I found this story going out to Newsarama, right? You go to Games Radar, and they have the Newsarama tab, but you go to Newsarama, it's got its own header, but you click on the article, it's not Newsarama, it's Games Radar. So you click on any of these Newsarama articles, and it just comes up as Games Radar. You know, so I guess it does it with the other tabs too, but that just, you know, again shows that Newsarama.com is effectively defunct. Newsarama is effectively gone at this point. There really isn't much left of Newsarama, and last time we heard they weren't even uploading the archives, like 20 years of Newsarama articles, or they're just gone. It's all about the now. It's all about the listicles. It's all about the BuzzFeed style content. So here we go. Comic book retailers unite in shock and anger over DC split with Diamond. The comic shop owners we spoke to are not seeing the good side of DC's moves. Direct market comic book retailers polled by Newsarama are stunned by the sudden move by DC to sever ties with Diamond Comic Distributors, the company who distributes the vast majority of comic books to stores. DC has chosen to instead sell their books through the distribution network they set up and announced in April during the pandemic that shut down Diamond's network. No, the pandemic did not shut Diamond down. Diamond shut itself down. Steve Geppi, after a week or two, decided he was just going to bail. And the only reason that Diamond is coming back online now, I believe, is because there's legit competition. And he was forced to, because some shops are opening up. But if that had not happened, if DC had not forced his hand and found a workaround, I do believe that Diamond would probably still be shut down. It was a nice gut punch after we just reopened our doors for the first time in 2 months, said J.C. Glindmeyer, owner of Earthworld Comics in Albany, New York, of Friday's Surprise News. As most retailers, I'm not going to cut off my nose to spite my face. I'll order for my regulars the minimum for racks, but I'm not putting any significant resources into their future projects. Talking about DC. The timing of this is terrible and shows a blatant disregard for concerns of comic sellers, said Ben Ray of Atomic Books in Baltimore. So I say this as a lifelong DC Comics fan as well as a retailer. Screw you, DC Comics. I wish them every bit as well as Marvel did when they did this back in the 90s. Whoever is calling the shots at DC, if there is anyone, should be sacked immediately. I can tell you what happened there, Ben Ray of Atomic Books. I don't think this was necessarily a DC decision. I think this was probably a Warner Media decision. I think Warner Media told DC Comics to get with the effing program. It was unacceptable that they were not allowed to sell comic books because Diamond decided they were going to cut and run. They were going to hide under the table in the fetal position and just kind of curl up. That's what I think happened, because Warner Media at this point is looking to trim all the fat in the company. I think they were told either you find a way to sell comics or you're done. We're not gonna run DC Comics as a publisher anymore. I just don't have a respectful comment, said Brett Parks, owner of 3 Sailfish comic locations in Winston-Salem, Greensboro, and Concord, North Carolina. I can't think of anything useful or positive to say about this. I just wish DC would go away or fire their sales team and start over. You might get your wish there, Brett. This is an insane bombshell, wrote Brian Hibbs of Comics Experience. They are handling this about as well as Captain Hook being a proctologist, said Ryan Seymour of Comic Town in Columbus, Ohio. There has been no transparency or heads up, and at times it has felt like we have been lied to. Retailers we spoke to said the move means higher shipping costs to stores, lower discounts from Diamond, and even thinner profit margins. Well, that is true. Now, Lunar, from what I've seen, is much better at shipping the product. It's actually part of Midtown Comics, and they bubble wrap everything, and it's nice, but you're going to pay more. Without the DC purchases through Diamond, my discount will be less, making my business no longer profitable or viable, said Charlie Harris of Charlie's Comic Books in Tucson, Arizona. I don't believe it will be profitable or practical for most retailers to order low return on investment periodicals from a second distribution source, says Brian Hibbs. The extra shipping and handling involved is going to melt profit, while the endless extra hours of trying to enter and massage data, gotta massage that data, into point of sale systems were not designed to quickly process mass data dumps from anyone other than Diamond. Okay, here's the thing, and other YouTubers have actually brought this up. I think I was watching a video by your boy Zach on it, and he brought up the fact that most retail businesses have multiple distributors. This is entirely true. I actually had relatives that had retail operations, and they had multiple distributors. What comic shops are, at this point, are basically franchisees of Diamond. That's what they are. I mean, because I'm looking at the comic book shops, I'm like, God, they work a lot like McDonald's, don't they? They're technically owned by whoever the franchisee is, but they have to order all of their supplies from McDonald's. They have to have McDonald's burgers and McDonald's buns. All this stuff has to run through McDonald's, even though they're independently owned and operated. And that's what comic book shops are. They're basically McComics. Diamond has run the comic book industry. You know, and I think this is part of why we see all the weirdness and shit going on in the comic book industry, why people are afraid of Diamond, why we've got these clubs that threaten to cancel you, because at the end of the day, everybody's basically working under the same Steve Geppi umbrella. He is single-handedly propping up the entire comic book industry, and even the publishers are working for him. You know, and that's not right. That's how comics shrinks, and that's exactly what's happened here is comic book shops are basically franchisees of Diamond, and this needs to stop for the health of the industry. And individual retailers need to find better ways to get merchandise in from other sources, or they're going to go out of business. Hibbs complains he's being offered substantially worse payment terms from these new distributors. Yeah, because Diamond used to float people cash. They used to, let you take your sweet old time in paying them. You get the books now, and you pay for the books you got later after you sold them. That's going to end. Actually, what's going to happen is comic book shops are going to wind up looking like every other retail operation out there, where you got to pay for your stuff up front. They might float you like 30, 60, 90 days, but you can't just like keep getting new product in and not paying back for your inventory. That's not how any of this works. Diamond shipping has been reasonable. Said see more if you're an account that orders enough. There's even a shipment option where your books are delivered via pallet, which cuts shipping costs even further. If shipping is too much, it cuts directly into the profitability of an item. That's true. That's even for people who sell direct to consumer. The problem is cutting back to sell out amounts might be enough to rein in the shipping costs. Now, he goes on to say that the shipping costs are astronomical, and that there are two companies that are new to distribution. They've dealt direct to consumer, but they've never really done distribution because they are comic shops themselves. So this is, look, at the end of the day, what's probably going to wind up happening, and I know a lot of shops are going to hate it, but what's going to happen is we're going to have a couple of like mega comic shops are going to be like Comic Book Amazon, and they're going to be the ones probably selling direct to consumer, because it doesn't make sense for, let's say if I opened a retail outlet of some kind and I wanted to get inventory, well, I'd just go out to Amazon, buy a bunch of stuff, and then just mark it up and sell it in my shop. That doesn't make any sense, because the consumer can go direct to Amazon too. And that's kind of what's going to happen here, I think. I think comic shops are going to be more for back issues and hard to find stuff, and not necessarily new product. I'm angry. Harris said, last minute notification without time for me as a retailer to keep the comics coming in a timely manner. Not true. 3 to 4 years of YouTube. 3 to 4 years of YouTube telling people that this probably would happen at some point. That the comic book industry was in decline. You weren't paying attention, or you weren't allowed to watch those videos, because if you watched those videos, you were an alt-right Yahtzee. You were a hater and you were supporting a hate movement. All these YouTubers talking about the problems in the comic book industry. And, you know, comic shops are left completely unprepared for what has been talked about for years. Years. Here comes Seymour again. It might be petty, but I'm not thrilled about my two biggest online competitors now profiting off of me. Having to buy books from companies that already had been selling books to guests for nearly half off is not something that sits well with me at all. Well, that's just it. It makes as much sense as me ordering from Amazon and marking stuff up when people can go directly to Amazon. Business is business, but this feels like a recipe for disaster. It is for comic shops. It absolutely is. Because what's going to happen is Disney's going to look at this and they're going to be like, yeah, we're out too. We're not doing this anymore. We got to make money. Let's just license all these comics out. What happens if one has to close? How quickly will the other be able to pick up the slack? I don't think Midtown's going to go out anytime soon. At least not as soon as these mom and pop comic shops. There's a reason that we went from 2 distributors to just 1 all those years ago. That was a nightmare, and I do not want to go through that again. Again, most retailers in any other industry deal with multiple distributors. You're in charge of your own business. At this point, if you only order everything through Diamond, you are a franchisee of Diamond. You're not your own business. You're just a franchisee. You're just reselling Diamond product. I don't even want to think about what this does for Diamond's solvency. Well, they should have thought of that before they just shut down. And their ability to help float stores and publishers over the short and medium term, said Hibbs. Again, if the comic book industry is propped up by one distributor who also finances these comic book shops, gives them loans, then you literally are a franchisee. You know, it's a rude wake-up call, because if you were your own business, you would be finding ways on your own to keep your shop viable. If Diamond dropped out, that should have little bearing on what you're doing. You just find another distributor, but oh wait, you can't, or you couldn't until now. Some retailers said the move also feels like DC has given up on the direct market retail system. Yes, that is. Why did it take them like 20 paragraphs to get to this? That is it. DC has given up on the direct market. Perhaps banking instead on digital readers and books by mail, which retailers said would be a mistake. DC is overplaying their hand. They don't care about you. While there's significant interest in solid potential sales in Batman and 3 Jokers, other projects going forward will have a difficult time getting a foothold. Retailers will be hard-pressed to sell newer DC product. If titles like Deceased were introduced now, they might be dead on arrival. You don't understand what is actually going on. Okay? DC's kidneys have failed. Its body is shutting down. DC is not looking at where the direct market is going to be in 10 years. Right now, they're trying to justify their existence to Papa Warner. Okay, and if they can't do that, DC as a publisher is done. It's done. And at that point, Warner Media just licenses the characters out to whichever comic publishers are left. You know, and again, we go to feelings. And I understand it. I understand people being pissed. They say it creates unnecessary stress for retailers at a time when many are struggling just to survive. I would imagine for many, it will engender the same level of hostility toward the company that I feel. How about instead of creating chaos, DC Comics did something for the retailers who have been selling their books? I suppose that's too much to expect. Don't blame DC Comics. Blame Diamond. Why will nobody blame Diamond? Diamond abandoned you. Diamond hid under the table in the fetal position. Diamond packed its suitcase and was going to sneak out the hotel window and catch a cab and leave you guys high and dry. The only reason they're coming back now is they want to look like heroes and not cowards. That's what happened. DC as a business did what they had to do, because DC will get shut down if they can't make money. So blame Diamond, not DC. And yes, your local comic shop is worried. They're absolutely terrified, because this is the beginning of the end. Again, all it was going to take was for one of the big two to blink, whether it was DC or Marvel, and change the status quo, and that is the end of the direct market. And it's a long time coming. Again, you should not be surprised if you've been paying attention. That's the key phrase right there. If you've been paying attention, if you've been watching the YouTubers that the mainstream comic press tried to demonize, instead of listening to all the propaganda from Diamond and your peers and the friendly media outlets that don't even fucking exist anymore, that they're just tabs on video game websites now, because you've been listening to the wrong people. And now you're up shit creek. But this was predicted years ago, but everybody hid that from you. They wanted to tell you it was all fine. Don't listen to YouTube. They're just a bunch of Nazis. Literally calling people Nazis. Don't listen to them. There might be a problem with Diamond. There might be a problem with the comic book industry and how it works. And hey, if you have a shop right now, you might want to diversify, because things, if anybody blinks, that is it for comics. But you didn't listen. You demonize people who've been calling this for years, and now you're going to blame DC Comics for trying to survive. So I don't know what to tell you. IDW now is trying to capitalize on it. They're extending retailer support. IDW is going to be out of fucking business too. You know this, right? IDW is not sustainable. The only way IDW would be sustainable possibly is if they somehow make it through this year, because they were already in Hurtsville. They were getting prepped to sell last year. If they make it through this year, Time Warner decides to just dip out and then somehow gives IDW the license to all the DC Comics characters, and then they can publish DC Comics. Even then, I don't know if that would be enough for them to survive. But they're going to go out. They're going to go out too. It's going to be a domino effect. There's so many of these publishers that shut down, that put the pencils down. They're not coming back. They're not coming back. And the next time there's a crisis, do you think Diamond's got your back? They don't have your back. They already proved they don't have your back. Again, if you're a shop owner, I feel very, very badly for you. But blaming DC Comics for trying to survive, trying to justify its own existence, shows how little comic shop owners actually know about how business works. Thinking about printing your own comic books, graphic novel, or manga? We recommend our friends over at PrintNinja. We've been using PrintNinja as long as they've been printing comics, and both the quality and price is excellent. Mention CLOWNFISH TV and get an additional 5% overrun of your book order quantity printed for free. For free! That's free books, people. Just mention this offer on the phone or in the additional information box on the quote request form. That's printninja.com, or click on the link in the description below. Hey guys, thanks for watching CLOWNFISH TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.